Alright, today we're going to try out 4 different techniques and recipes for a smooth, creamy, and emulsified mac and cheese that stays that way. Recipe 1 will use evaporated milk, Recipe 2 will use pasta water, Recipe 3 will be your standard classic Mornay sauce, and Recipe 4 will use American cheese. The ingredients for these recipes should be on the screen right now. So first up, we have the evaporated milk. And this recipe comes courtesy of Kenji Lopez Alt from Serious Eats. I'll link a video of him making this in the description. We have our pasta in a pot with just enough water to cover. Add some salt and then bring it to a boil. Give it an occasional stir to make sure nothing sticks to each other or the pot itself. Let this boil anywhere from 6 to 9 minutes until there's just barely any water in the pot. Once we hit that point, we add our evaporated milk, give it a good stir, and then also bring it to a boil. Finally, we kill the heat and then add our cheese. Mix it all up and that's it, we are done. We then let it sit for 5 minutes and give it a good stir, and we can see that it is still creamy and smooth. All in all, I would say this is a very good recipe. This is because the one pot nature of it makes it easy to do and easy to clean. Additionally, the sauce stays creamy for a very long time. Next up, we have the pasta water method from Bon Appetit. Again, video in the description. To start out, we have the pasta in a pot with enough water to cover, and we add a good heaping amount of salt. While that's coming up to a boil, we begin with the sauce. Add your first tablespoon of butter to the pan and let that melt out, to which we add our black pepper and let those spices bloom and really release their flavors. After that, add the milk. I would recommend turning down the heat first and then adding the milk so it doesn't boil immediately like you see here. Once it comes to a reasonable boil, we add the rest of our butter in 1 tablespoon additions. We also give it a gentle stir, and the reason for this is because if you were to add all your butter in at once, it could break the emulsion. So by adding it a little bit at a time, giving it a gentle stir, it stays emulsified. Finally, once the pasta is cooked to our liking, we take out anywhere from 1 to 2 cups of that pasta water and set it aside while draining the rest of it. Then we add the pasta to your milk and butter mixture, give it a good coating, swirl it around, then add a bit of the cheese, mix that around, then add a bit of the pasta water and mix that around. Repeat this process until all the cheese has been added and the sauce is to the consistency of your liking. Again, after 5 minutes, we can see it's still creamy and smooth, but I would say not as creamy and smooth as the evaporated milk recipe. So while the starch from that pasta water is good at keeping the emulsion from breaking, I suppose the micelles, the proteins in the evaporated milk, do an even better job. Now we're going to make the classic Mornay sauce, starting with butter and flour. Add them to the pot and stir on heat until they combine into a thick paste. This particular Mornay sauce comes from Kitchen Conundrums. Video is in the description. Once you get that thick paste, we cook it a little bit more just to get rid of that raw flour edge, and then add our milk slowly and in incremental additions. If you were to add all your milk in at once, you risk the sauce becoming clumpy because not all of those flour paste particles will get dissolved. So after adding all of the milk and starting to get that smooth bechamel sauce, we turn off the heat and add the cheese in small additions to make this a Mornay sauce. Again, we add in small additions because if you were to add all of it in at once, we risk making the sauce grainy and having a poor emulsion. To save you some time, I'm not going to show boiling pasta noodles again. Once the Mornay sauce is done, we add it to the drained pasta noodles and stir it all to combine. After letting it sit for the required 5 minutes, we can see that this mac and cheese has no lumps or clumps and is still creamy. It's a classic for a reason, and I think it works based off the same principle as a pasta water, where the starch from the flour serves to keep the emulsion stable in the Mornay sauce. Lastly, we have the American cheese method, or the sodium citrate method, which many people have found. This particular recipe comes from Adam Ragusa. Video will be in the description. To a medium sauce pot, we add the cheeses, butter, and milk. The key in this recipe is to constantly stir till everything is a single consistency. If we don't constantly stir, the sauce will break and separate very easily. Again, to save you time, I'm not going to show me boiling the pasta noodles. Once your sauce is at that smooth, homogeneous consistency, we add our drained pasta noodles and we give it all a good stir. And in this 5-minute test, I would say that this sauce is by far the smoothest and sauciest of the recipes. Sodium citrate is an ingredient in mac and cheese that helps give it that distinct texture, and there's more than enough in it to help other cheeses and ingredients combine to form a very smooth and creamy, stable cheese sauce. Overall, if I were to rank these 4 techniques/recipes, I would say the evaporated milk is number 1, followed by American cheese, then standard Mornay sauce, then pasta water. This is because the creaminess of the evaporated milk is comparable to the American cheese, but because evaporated milk has very little flavor on its own, it's much more easily customizable, though every single one of these recipes results in a mac and cheese that stays smooth and doesn't break. So use whatever you got in your kitchen and whatever you like. I hope you found this video useful, and for more cooking mistakes, common issues, and problems in the kitchen, please rate, like, comment, and subscribe to my channel.